Welcome back, Rebels.
Welcome back to episode 2 in our little mini course thing, what we're doing.
In this episode, we're going to discuss fear, especially the fear of other people's opinions. We're going to break down comparison and how you shouldn't compare yourself to other people. We're going to talk about how to overcome these fears and how you can actually start.
Yeah, in episode 1, we talked about working out what it is you actually want to do. Now we're going to talk about, if you've got that thing in your head, what it is that's holding you back. So we would be happy if every single person that listened to the podcast started whatever it is they wanted to do. But we know how hard it is to actually get started. There's a number of things that if you've not yet started are probably holding you back. And I think the biggest one of those is fear.
Definitely. The fear of other people's opinions, I think, really holds people back. That's kind of like the main kind of fear that we come across when talking to people. And just from our own experiences, like what will this person think if it doesn't work? Like, what will this person say about this? Like, people don't like change. And people don't want to see you change in any way because it means it says something about them.
Yeah, people have these boxes that they like to put us in. And if you have all of a sudden broken out of your box and you're declaring to the world that you're doing something new, that does then reflect on the people who are still doing the same thing that they've always been doing. And perhaps then they might say something which would put you down or put you off. And it's certainly something that we came across when we all of a sudden announced that we were doing our very first business. And people said that we were crazy, that we should be more realistic. People said that we should... I think it comes from two places as well, because I mean, certainly my family, for example, were saying you should not do this because this is not a career path
career option
that we understand. It's not the way that we did things. So there was care there that maybe I might be going off and doing something completely wacky. But then at the same time, there's also the spotlight of, well, I'm working in this crap job and you're working in this crap job too. If you leave and go and do something new, then what am I doing? I'm either going to stay here in this crap job or I have to make the effort that you're making, and both of those make me feel very uncomfortable. So that can then get reflected onto you.
We meet a lot of people at universities who've come up to us and said that they're only doing their course because their parents have told them to do it. And it's a really hard place to be in.
It's such a heartbreaker, isn't it? Because I totally get it. Because that's and definitely it's in different cultures as well. There's certain cultures where it's so strong, the expectation of you will be a doctor, you will be a lawyer, or one of these kind of lauded professions where it's supposedly a noble profession.
Yeah, and they're obviously doing it from love. Like, they know that if you go and do that course and you can go and get a job and earn a lot of money from it, that's what they kind of see as security, and they just want you to be secure and safe by going a more traditional route on things. But you don't have to do that.
The slide that we end a lot of our talks with is stop giving a shit about what other people think and start creating. And certainly with some of the people that we've met, it's absolutely crippling, the fear of letting people down. But you cannot live your life for someone else. If you have an idea, you owe it to yourself to at least see it through. It might be, I mean, your life is long, and hopefully these relationships that you have with people who may be judging what you're doing are going to be lasting for a long time. And so for maybe 3 years of rockiness to when you get past that magic 3-year point and things start to happen and people realize you're not as crazy as they first thought, 3 years of rockiness is worth so much more than 20 years of being okay, but you secretly resenting them because they held you back because you couldn't actually go and do what you really dreamed of doing, or at least what you wanted to try doing.
Another way that fear can manifest is, what will people think of me who are further on in their journey than me? Am I good enough? Kind of like, I look at what I'm doing and I look at what they're doing and they're so much better than me. And should I even try? Should I just stop now? But like, you've got to realize that you can't compare your chapter 1 to their chapter 20. Like, they've been doing this for potentially a lot longer, and they've learned a lot. They've really grown. So, and you've got to remember, they started where you are. Like, every single person that you follow, every single person that you respect started from zero. They all started with absolutely nothing. And they've got to where they are now by hard work and just absolutely going for it. So don't think, I can't do that, I'm not as good as them. You might not be as good as them yet, but you have the complete chance to get to that level. And it's just putting the work in and learning and growing and challenging yourself.
Yeah, that comparing chapters thing I think is really important to remember. And it's something I say to creatives all the time, is to not compare yourself to other people. There's that saying that comparison is the thief of joy. I think when you look at the amount of time that goes into something with us, people look at the podcast and they see that, I mean, was basically an overnight success. And that's the thing that we always say doesn't exist, isn't like there's no such thing as an overnight success. However, if we'd not been running businesses for 9 years, we wouldn't have had the skills and the knowledge to put into creating this podcast for you guys. If we hadn't spent 8 months before we even started this podcast, planning it, structuring it, practicing it, sitting down in front of these microphones and rambling to each other like terrible episodes. If we hadn't done that and then developing relationships with influencers who we knew would then share the podcast on launch, it wouldn't have been the overnight success. It has grown very quickly, but that's because we have so much time in the bank that goes up towards it.
Yeah, if you think about things like an iceberg, like you only see that little tip that floats above water. You don't see this huge, massive thing that's underneath, the thing that's gone behind it, all of the hard work and effort that's gone in to get there.
And the failures as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you only see people's wins. Recently, we were going back through all of our, like trying to find like old photos of our first studio, and we couldn't find any because we weren't proud of that time. We'd arrive in a kind of grotty studio every day that we could just about afford, and it wasn't expensive at all. And it wasn't something that we were like, oh, I'm really proud of this space. So we don't have documents of it, which is a real shame because I would love to be able to go back and just see exactly what that studio looked like.
Yeah, I just have a vision of it in my head, but like it's probably completely inaccurate. But.
Yeah, because they say like your actual memories are so like a massive percentage incorrect, don't they?
Yeah. But I suppose because we went through all of that time in that freezing cold office, it's like now whenever we start something new, we know that feeling is familiar. And I think it's the first time that you do something where you're so out of your depth and you're like, I mean, especially for us creatives starting a business, learning all about sales, marketing, social media, learning about search engine optimization so that people could find our website, having client meetings, all of these things that were so far out of our depth. I mean, we were fine with painting. We were really happy when we were actually creating, but learning all of those other side skills that we needed, we felt completely out of our depth. But those experiences have formed the foundation that now we can build on. And now we're actually strong in those things that we were once weak in. So every time we start something new, we can always lean back and we know that feeling. We're there again and we're like, okay, this is that hard phase. This is the building stage. And we recognize it and we embrace it.
Nothing that's worth doing is easy. Like it's going to be a long, hard road and you need to fully understand that. Like if it was completely easy, then absolutely everyone would do it. And no one would value it because it would be what everyone does anyway.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? There's a podcast we've got coming out soon at the launch of our season 2, and we're talking with Alistair Humphreys, and it's a whole conversation about this, about the amount of time it takes to make something successful. So there's been like a hugely successful book, which is the 60 second millionaire. Is it 60 minute or 60 second? Anyway, some like ridiculously short amount of time. People are actually buying that thinking, oh, I've got a spare 60 minutes. I could become a millionaire.
Yeah, it's like Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week. Like no one has a 4-hour work week. Like not if you want to be successful. And like you would be bored if you had a 4-hour work week, if you love what you do. But if that book was called the 78-hour work week, but you were guaranteed success, people would still go and pick up that 4-hour work week because they want that kind of quick hack. And there is no quick hack. Like spoiler alert, everything just takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, so sorry, this is really unsexy. And unsubscribe from us now because, yeah, it's going to be bloody hard work and we're going to be really honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like it is going to be hard work and we are going to be completely honest. So if you're prepared to put in some hard work, then we're here to help you.
That's the thing, the people that put in the hard work, because most people won't. That's the thing. That's why you're going to win. If you do have that capacity to actually work fucking hard at something, you will be more successful because most people do not have that.
And I think I like to think of things like a university course. So if you're going into anything, give yourself 3 years absolutely committed to it. And say to yourself when you start, okay, well, this is going to be at least a 3-year game. And that's going to give you the drive to keep going then. At 6 months when things aren't going too great and you haven't really got to where you thought you might be there, like you still got 2.5 years to go. Like you've got to keep grinding. You've got to keep going because without that kind of grit and determination to stick through those 3 years, you won't be successful.
This episode is a lot less practical because it's mindset. It's really there's no way of us to like climb into your brain and give you the confidence and the courage to actually do it. Although actually, because a lot of you DM us and say that we have done that. So maybe if you've only listened to a few episodes, listen to the entire first series and maybe that will give you the confidence. I think the only real thing that you can do practically to get over that fear is address those fears head on and work out what is that you're worried about to begin with.
Yeah, what I would do, so a little kind of challenge for you guys now, I want you to make a list of every single thing that you're scared of. Everything that kind of makes you feel anxious, everything that you're worried about, all the fears that you have, just make a big list. And then what I want you to do is write down how you're going to combat each of those things, because you need to get over the fear. Because if you're fearful, then you won't start and something will always be holding you back. So the quicker you can get over that, the better. So yeah, make a list of all the things you're scared about and then write down how you're going to overcome all of them. Then I want you to have all of those just on a piece of paper that you can refer back to whenever you need it, what you're going to do to overcome them. And that can be your challenge for the next 6 months.
Yeah, and you will be able to cross those fears off eventually and you won't have to come back to them. Once a fear is conquered, it pretty much stays conquered. I know we've definitely overcome stuff now that we don't even think about. For Adam, it was getting on stage in front of people, which over the past year he's done a bunch of times and has completely overcome that.
I think fear is the opposite to confidence, and the fear is almost the lack of confidence in a lot of areas. And you only get confident by doing things again and again and again. So if you do have a fear of public speaking, put yourself in situations where you have to public speak. And by doing that several times, 20 times, you will overcome those fears. And that's how you get through stuff, like by gaining confidence in those areas.
You can sit down and you can read every single business book in the world, but you will learn so much more through doing. So please, whatever it is that you are thinking of starting, just start. The next episodes will take you through what you actually have to do once you've got started. So if you're starting your small business, buy the website. If you're going to write a book, start writing the first paragraph. Nothing can happen until you actually start. So start today, start the first step. It might take you some work to cross off those fears. You might have to delay starting for 6 months while you address those fears. But until you've started, nothing can develop.